Howdy, howdy do Who fans. Welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 267.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems on a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator. I could retire and do that.
I'm the Doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Howdy do, Who fans. Hope you're all keeping well, keeping safe and healthy. Hope you've tried to have a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. 267, bud.
Yeah.
Here we are, part 2, week 2 of the Trial of a Time Lord month, which is going surprisingly well so far. Last week we thought that you guys would absolutely slay this to pieces. Based on everyone that we talked to across various conventions and meetups and stuff, whenever we got onto the subject of Old Sixie and Trial of a Time Lord, people don't generally have great things to say. But then you guys came through with some pretty high scores, actually. And a lot of love for this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for Old Sixie.
Yes. So we'll see what you guys think later on when we get onto our review of Mindwarp.
Mindwarp.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing some silly impressions later. I think people will be expecting it.
I think people are sick of it now, mate. I think people, because one of the criticisms that is generally laid upon the few stories featuring Syl is just how annoying his voice is after about 2 seconds and all that stuff. So I think if I start doing it, people are going to be like, nah, screw this. Let's go and find a different Doctor Who podcast, shall we?
I'm sure Syl's got a big fan base out there somewhere.
That's your
lot. That's your lot for that.
That's it.
Yeah. So cool. What have you been up to, bud? Anything Doctor Who related?
Doctor Who related? Yeah, I've had a fairly good week Doctor Who wise, actually. Been reading the interview between RTD and the Moff in the latest Doctor Who mag, because I was getting worried. I thought it got lost because it was a bit late arriving this month. But yeah, that's really good. It's great to have those two together. I love, I know I keep saying this, I love the fact that they're both still on Twitter, and the Moff did tweet the other day that he was hoping that they might actually make it to the cover of the magazine, being as it was an interview between the two of them, but sadly not. It's a picture of Tennant and Matt on the front, which is cool. Mm-hmm. So I've been reading that. That's really good. I've been blitzing my way through the season 14 set. Just loving that. I've watched all the Behind the Sofas now. And I watched the Philip Hinchcliffe interview with Matthew Sweet, which is just over an hour long. That was really good as well. I tell you, there's a little. Obviously, I've watched the Sarah Jane thing. I think I said this last week. I can't remember, but I obviously watched the Sarah Jane thing, which obliterated me. Brilliant. But there's a little hidden gem on this Blu-ray. Really nice feature. So there was a documentary made back in the day. I think it's called Who's Doctor Who or something like that. which is the sort of famous clip where you see Tom Baker and Deep Roy rehearsing in the, rehearsal room and stuff like that. And it's, it often gets sort of used in little segments in different documentaries, but this is the original full thing. And they've done it, which is it's a brilliant documentary, actually, really good stuff on that. But then they've done a sort of return to Who's Doctor Who. So they've done like a documentary about the documentary where they go back and talk to the producer and they try and find some of the kids that were involved in it at the time and see where they are now and what they thought of it. And it's quite an emotional little journey. Without giving too much away, it's Toby Haydock presents it, and I like Toby. But yeah, without saying too much, because I think I'd like people to sort of discover it themselves. I don't want to sort of ruin it, but it's a real great little hidden gem, because I sort of knew about most of the features on this set, and I was looking forward to watching them, like the Sarah Jane and stuff. I couldn't wait to get that on. But then I was like, what's this Who's Doctor Who Return then? What's this about? Really good. Really, really, really good. So I don't know how much of if you had a chance to get into your set yet. I know yours arrived last week, didn't it?
Yeah, so I've watched the Matt Sweet interview, and I've watched the Behind the Sofas.
Yeah,
because they're some of the most entertaining parts of the thing. But I'm saving the Sarah Jane thing because I didn't have time to smash into that. I thought if I watch it now, I'm going to fall asleep halfway through, and that won't be fair. So that's been postponed to this weekend.
These new documentaries are just brilliant. I think they're worth buying for the sets alone. I mean, I'm thinking about, I was talking to Matt Rowney from the Who Addicts, because he's just bought all the sets, and I was saying to him, you've got some real gems to watch, because like on the season 18 you had the J&T documentary, which was just brilliant. You've got the At Home with Waterhouse, whatever it's called, the Matthew Waterhouse little thing with Toby Haydock, which was hilarious. So much good stuff on these sets, but really, really enjoyed that. The only other thing I've been doing, I finally cracked open the Christopher Eccleston biography. Now, I've had this for a while. I went to a signing back when it was released. It's been sat on my shelf and been really sort of looking forward to watching it, but to reading it, I mean. But obviously I won't start a book until I finish a book. So I just finished reading, what was it? The Ace at Child's End. Finished that, really enjoyed it. So I thought, right, next book, what shall I go for? Let's crack open that Eccleston biography. And I'm about 7 or 8 chapters in and really, really enjoying that, really enjoying it. I should have looked at the title, though, because I was about 3 chapters in and I kept thinking, God, he's talking about his dad a lot. I hope he sort of talks about other stuff. And then I realised, isn't it called something like the way my dad shaped my life? Or so?
The Bones of My Father, I think it's.
Yeah,
like
I was thinking, oh, you Wally. Of course, obviously his dad is going to run all the way through his book, which is, now I've got into it, it's really, really good. So I'm really enjoying that. But yeah, I should have taken more note of the actual title of the book, because I kept thinking, God, chapter 3, and he's still going on about his dad. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that so far. Really enjoying that. And finally, the other thing that I've done this week, which I did yesterday. So before we started recording, I was telling you how bored I was yesterday, that I started cleaning out all the rubbish in our cupboard, so I've been doing clearing out. So I thought I need something to listen to, and I downloaded the new Big Finish audio, Shadow of the Sun. This is the 4th Doctor one that they recorded in lockdown. It was released yesterday, and I thought, that's perfect, absolutely perfect, because I was rattling around the house, bored to death. I thought, right, yeah, I'll sort out all that stuff I've been meaning to do, get that audio on, great. And really enjoyed that as well. It's just over an hour long, I think it was. You wouldn't know that they've recorded it in lockdown. I mean, the quality, it's not like Skype when we sometimes record, it keeps cracking up, and there's none of that. It sounds really professional. I don't think you'd know that it was done in lockdown. And there's a nice little 10-minute sort of making of at the end where Tom's talking about stupid people going out when they should be in lockdown and stuff. Very entertaining, very good. And it's one of those stories as well, because we liked the synopsis when we read it out, didn't we? It's one of those, it sounds quite fun. It's a fun concept. It's one of those stories that starts off quite light and fluffy, and I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be a slightly silly story, a bit more fun, but it has a very dark side to it. Especially it takes a bit of a dark turn, and it works really well. So yeah, so I enjoyed that. So I've had some good stuff going on this week in between all the lockdown nonsense and being stuck at home. I've managed to do a few good Doctor Who things this week. So, yeah, I do love starting a new book. I don't know about you. I love it when I crack open a new book because I've got so many, so many piled up ready to read. Yeah.
No, I do, mate. I do like the old. But that's the problem, though. That's the ongoing problem. It's always new books and Big Finish coming out all the time.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that new. Yes, I'm looking forward to that new. What's it called? The new McGann one with the curator Paul McGann and Tom. Baker.
That one.
It's coming. Yeah. It's been brought forward, so it's coming out next month, which I'm really looking forward to. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll go on the Big Fish website.
While you're doing that, mate, mine's going to be very quick and simple. I've not done hardly any Doctor Who since last weekend, other than obviously digging out the season 23 Blu-ray collection. I had a real brain freeze last week.
How come?
Yeah, so when I watched The Mysterious Planet last week for last week's review, for some reason I just pulled out the original DVD box set. The old collections they used to do on DVD. This one's got they used to come in like the black sleeves.
I know exactly the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So for some reason I reached for that and stuck that on, and then I was about to do the same thing this week for Mindwarp, and I thought, why am I doing this? I've got the brand new Blu-ray collection, season 23, sitting there. Why haven't I reached for that? So I had to correct myself and put that on. And as I was looking through, I found this very cool little documentary that I'd completely forgotten about. For some reason, it's just randomly on there. It's 50 years in the TARDIS.
Oh, yeah.
And so I gave that a quick watch before I watched Mindwarp. But that's a very cool little documentary, and Colin's on there quite a bit. And yeah, so that's all I've done, dude, for Doctor Who. But yeah, what's that Big Finish story?
It's called Stranded. So yeah, it's coming out next month. And it's basically, I think the sort of thing of it is that the 8th Doctor gets stranded on Earth, no TARDIS or anything to help him out, and the curator's going to be in it, so Tom Baker's going to be in it as well. So it just sounds like something a bit different, quite an interesting one. So I believe it's been brought forward. It's definitely out next month. So I'm looking forward to that. Because I was going to say, in this time of lockdown, Big Finish is kind of the perfect thing to have to hand, isn't it? It's just, if you're bored, what can I do? Bung on a Big Finish. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
So this also features one of the very small characters from Torchwood that we quite like every now and then. Remember PC Andy?
It does.
Remember PC Andy?
Yes, PC Andy. I forgot about that. Yeah.
He's now Sergeant Andy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought he was dead. I thought he got killed.
Well, we don't know when this is set, though.
He might not have done. I might be just remembering that wrong. I just had a feeling because I remember sort of thinking, oh no, not PC Andy, but maybe he lived to see another day. Because my memories of Torchwood are very sketchy.
So we don't know when this is set. So it's obviously after the first 2 series of Torchwood when he's just PC Andy. So at this point he's been promoted, he's Sergeant, but we don't know if it's set far enough that, his untimely demise. Does he die? I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does.
I just got it in my head that he did, but yeah. Oh, well, that's good. That'll bring the fun element to it.
Mind you, this is the Doctor Who timeline. This is like, bloody Star Wars these days. It's like Luke Skywalker's famous line, no one's ever really gone. It can apply to Doctor Who these days.
Yeah.
Bring anybody back.
It's like Philip Hinchcliffe says in that interview, isn't it? Doctor Who is a show where it's just limitless. He said that's the joy of the show, isn't it? You can do just about anything, really.
Well, if they can do just about anything, why isn't Clive back yet?
Well, give it time.
I know he was in a Big Finish story, wasn't he? He was in...
he was in that Rose one, wasn't he?
Yeah. But we've not seen him back in the show as like a full-on... we've not seen a spin-off. We've not seen a proper Big Finish series featuring Clive. It's bloody ridiculous. One of the best characters that we only
Mark
saw
Benson seems such a dude, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's so up for coming back as well.
Yeah, listeners are like, oh, Gary, really? You're going to bang on about Clive again? But come on, man. Like, just the whole... When you go in, when he took Rose into the shed and he's got all of that research about the Doctor and everything, and you can tell that for years, potentially decades, he's devoted his life to researching the Doctor, and he's got all these cool adventures he's gone on to find evidence of it and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's just all ripe to be. And he could have had encounters with the Doctor and not known about it. Like the Doctor could have been like, Oh, I know about this guy, Clive. Yeah, he's come a bit close a couple of times to figuring me out, but I've kept an eye on him, and
yeah,
and I don't know.
I'll tell you, I think Clive and the 10th Doctor would have worked great together.
Oh, they would, yeah,
wouldn't they?
Yeah,
they'd have been a good pairing up. It's funny because with this whole timeless child thing, I mean, the Doctor could be just about anyone now, couldn't it? You could sort of say, well, that was the Doctor. Oh. Yeah, which is the only thing I don't. I mean, it's the thing that really bugs me about it, actually, because I'm not. I know some people hate the timeless child thing, and I don't hate it. I don't like it. I'm sort of very on the fence with the whole timeless child thing. But one thing that really does get me is that the Doctor could just be anyone in any story now. I just don't like that idea because it seems that it's a bit of a get out, doesn't it? You could have someone throughout the whole story and then just at the end say, "Oh, it's all right. It was the Doctor all along." Oh, yeah. I just don't like that. I like to know who the Doctor is.
Yeah, that's something that. I
mean, I don't want to get onto the whole timeless child thing because that's a whole can of worms and a totally another podcast. But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I think that was a bone of contention for a lot of people after that. It was like, yeah, it was a much better finale and it's much better than Series 11 and it was all great and everything. But now what do we do with this bloody canon rewrite?
Well, that's the other thing, you see. It comes back to what I just said, that you can do anything with Doctor Who. And with the Timeless Child, you literally could reset it like that. Because it would be so easy to undo it. But that's the only thing, because I think that's one of the reasons I'm not too upset about it. I mean, I don't love it, I don't hate it, but I just think it would be so easy to retcon that. You could just say, because all the stuff missing from the Matrix stuff, you could just say, yeah, it was just the master playing with you. Mm-hmm. Of course that isn't true. It's so easy to undo. So if you don't like the Timeless Child thing, or if you're a bit like me where you're a bit like unsure about it, in the back of your head, just have that in your mind. It's very, very easily undone. So I know Chibbers would hate it, but imagine the next showrunner coming in and being like, right, first thing we're doing is changing that. We're getting rid of that. A bit like Moffat with the Time War. Right, we're going to dive into the Time War and totally change that. So it's very easily undone, I think. Unless Chibbers really goes into it in Series 13, and then we are bleeped, but I don't think he will. I doubt it.
Yeah, it also feels like a little bit of a long-term plan thing as well. So,
yeah, it does. Well, didn't he say he had a 5-year plan or so when he took over?
Yeah, but I'm thinking longer than that though.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I'm thinking like the long game, like when he's having meetings with the execs at the Beeb and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the things that's come up in conversation a lot is, look, we're going to run into a problem at the end of I don't know, whenever it's going to be, really. When we get to another 12th Doctor, we're going to run into exactly the same problem that we had previously, which he only has 12 regens. So how are we going to do a reset button at that time? People are going to get pretty miffed off if we keep just hitting the reset button. So let's just make this endless stream of, let's just make the Doctor eternal. Let's just give him unlimited regens, and that solves that problem very nicely. That way we can, we don't have to worry about that number 12 anymore. We can just keep going and going and going and going, and it's all good. So maybe that was part of the very long game thing.
Maybe. I do think that takes the danger out of things, though. Because if you think the Doctor's can only regenerate so many times, then you think, if he gets killed, it's like a cat losing a life, isn't it? Whereas now it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because he's got infinite lives and just keep shooting him. It's a bit like Jack, isn't it? He'll just keep coming back. Don't worry about it. So it does take away the danger element a bit to me. It's funny. Sometimes I just lie there in bed thinking about the Timeless Child, and I'm so conflicted about it. Anyway, we mustn't go down that route because it'll take up the whole podcast, and we're here to review Mindwarp.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Before we get on to that though, and before we haven't got any news by the way this week, it's just a couple of bits of upcoming merch to talk through. But until we get on to that stuff, thank you very much for listening to the show as always. But make sure you are subscribed. So just do a search for us on whatever podcast app you listen to podcasts on. We'd love you as a subscriber. That way you don't miss a show and it lands every Friday morning. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. So give us a like and a follow over there, or head over to the website. It's got links to all of those things over there Plus, you can listen to all the shows and, link off to the podcast apps and all that stuff. So, shall we see what old Tat's got?
Yeah, get old Tat in. See what he's got.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Well, there you are, young man. What do you think of that now, eh? A Viking helmet.
I know, it's on the telly. It's everywhere.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
I work in a shop now, here to help.
Just before you kick off the thing, my partner is Chinese, watches this Chinese game show, which is a bit like The Voice, except that instead of singing, they have to do an emotional speech, and the most emotional and best speech is the winning thing. But the reason I mention this is because I was watching. I mean, I never watch it because I can't understand it. Obviously, I'm just like, what are they on about? But the other day, I was it was on in the background, and he was loving it, and I was on the computer doing something, and I just heard dun 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 dun, and I was like, what? They use that music on that quiz show for like the little in between bits. So every time an act finishes or starts, it goes dun 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 dun, and I was like, are they allowed to use that music?
Is it the same notes, everything? Exactly the same?
It's exactly the same.
Oh dear.
It's the I am the Doctor thing. I'm thinking, how are they allowed to use that? But it was just so funny because I was, obviously just sort of heard it in the background and was like, what are you watching? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I hope Murray knows. I don't even know what the show's called, obviously. It's just some thing that he gets on his Chinese TV. I don't know.
Well, we assume that Doctor Who is trademarked and all of the properties associated, so all of the soundtracks, everything is copywritten and all that stuff. So
there's no mistake in that theme, and I've heard it a couple of times now when it's been on.
Oh dear.
But it's just so weird to hear it on the. It's the whole show looks like The Voice, the TV talent show. It looks like that, and they come on and do a speech, but in between every bit it goes dun 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 dun.
Well, maybe the guy who was doing the music was completely wasted when they said, look, we really need the little soundbite that we're going to have to play between things.
Actually, it's the I'm the Doctor bit. It's it's the same thing in it. It's just a variation. Yeah. It's that. Yeah.
Maybe he was wasted.
Exactly, yeah.
I know. He was like, yeah, I got this covered, and he's a Doctor Who fan. That's the thing he was listening to on Spotify at the time when he had when he was 10 bottles in, and he was like, yeah, go on, have that just for a crack. I'm leaving tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, they're reading about, you got that theme done yet? Oh, yeah, I've got it. Hang on. I'm just sending it over now.
I'll have to keep an eye on that.
I will, yeah. I'll have to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
Anyway,
right.
back to the merch. What's old Tat got?
Right, so he has very unceremoniously, as always, just tossed over a couple of things and walked out. Or wheeled out, should I say.
Wheeled out, yeah.
And, so we've got two books on the horizon. So we spoke about this big multi-medium, multi-crossover thing a few weeks ago, which is the Timelord Victorious stuff, which is going to tell the story of I think they're going to go back in time, like way back in time to like near the beginning of the universe, and even around the story of the Eternals and when they were younger and all that jazz. So to kick off the thing, they're going to release 2 novels, which are due out in, one is in October. So the first one that's out in October is called The Knight, the Fool and the Dead, which is written by Steve Cole. And the Knight is spelt with a K, by the way. It's not like nighttime, bedtime. It's like silver armor and sword. Knight. You get what I mean? So anyway, the drivel that's come with this one is we live forever, barring accidents, just like everyone else in the universe. The Doctor travels back to the ancient days, an era where life flourishes and death is barely known. Then come the Kotara. Creatures who spread through the cosmos dispensing mortality. They judge each and every species and decree its allotted time to live. For the first time, living things know the fear of ending, and they will go to any lengths to escape the grim new spectre, death. The Doctor is an old hand at cheating death. Now at last he can stop it at the source. He is coming for the Kotara, ready to change everything so that life wins from the start. Not just the last of the Time Lords, the Time Lord Victorious. And this is out on the 1st of October. It's priced at the moment on Amazon, very weirdly, at £8.79, which is very specific.
Amazon and their prices.
Yes. And so that's the first book. So that sounds quite cool. That's the David Tennant. He's on the cover for the artwork, which is great, by the way. Have you seen Lee Binding's... if you follow him on Twitter or anything, it's really, really good. But it's, the 10th Doctor. That's going to be the first story for that one, which looks kind of cool. And that also features an Ood in a tuxedo.
Looks good, doesn't it?
Which is kind of cool. And so that's the first book. And then the second book is called Time Lord Victorious, All Flesh is Grass. And that's been written by Una McCormack. And the drivel for that one is, even a Time Lord can't change the past. A wasteland, a dead world. No, there is no biodome rising from the ash. Here, life teems and flourishes with strange and lush plants and many winged insects with bright carapaces. And one solitary sentient creature who spends its days watering the plants, talking to the insects and tending this lovely garden. This is Inyit, the last of the Kotara. I think I'm saying Kotara, right? Koturu, something like that. In All Flesh is Grass, we are transported back to the dark times. The 10th Doctor has sworn to stop the Kotara, ending death and bringing life to the universe, but his plan is unravelling. Instead of bringing life, nothing has changed, and all around him people are dying. Death is everywhere. Now he must confront his former selves, one in league with their greatest nemesis and the other manning a ship of the undead.
Oh, blimey.
Crikey. So this looks like it's another 10th Doctor focused story. However, in this one, he will go back and interact with the 9th Doctor and the 8th Doctor. And their likenesses, as is authorised by the BBC, is used on the front of the book. So we've got Paul McGann and Chris Eccleston there. And we've also got a huge swarm or a muggle or a murder of Daleks, whatever plural you want to use there. And this one's out a bit later. This one's out on the 10th of December. This one priced at the more expected price of £9.99 versus the £8.79 of the first one. Maybe that one's got like 25 less pages or something.
I was going to say, what is that about? Yeah.
Yes. So a couple of interesting titles here, dude. I'm interested in both of them. I think I'm going to pre-order both just because my OCD is just going to crash and burn if I only read one of them or do one of these things. So, but they both look very cool. Obviously, the more intriguing one is the multi-Doctor one, All Flesh is Grass. So we'll see what pans out there. But yeah, a couple of decent sounding stories, mate, to kick off this Time Lord Victorious thing. Yeah,
I mean, I got to back up what you said about the artwork. It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? I mean, that sells it to me already. You know, I just want to own that book with that cover on it. I think it looks great. Synopsis sounds good, intriguing, and all that. Like the titles, yeah, I'm into this. I definitely want to get these. I'm intrigued where it's set and what this whole, you know, I mean, we hear the phrase Time Lord Victorious bandied about quite a bit, but what is this the Doctor when he's going a bit rogue, gone a bit mad? Where, you know, how is he meeting the other Doctors? Where is this set? How is it going to tie in with all the other things that they've got planned? Because this is a sort of multi-universe? Is that what do you call it? Multimedia. So yeah, I'm intrigued by it. As I said, the covers alone have sold it to me. So I'm quite looking forward to getting these. I'm assuming they're going to sort of kickstart the whole multimedia Time Lord Victorious thing. Then I guess this starts it all. So be interested to see how it starts and where it's going. Yeah,
we can probably expect an announcement from Titan Comics in the next few months because they're going to tie into it as well. They're going to support the story, and Big Finish also. So those other two companies we'll probably hear from in the run up to when these are released. I think these are these two novels, I think anyway, are the first thing that's going to kick off this thing, and then the Big Finish and Titan's going to follow after. And then I think we've got some other bits. We've got the escape rooms and
that's right,
and whatever, bumper stickers, whatever. But it seems like they might be going down the moody 10th Doctor
that's what I'm
route
thinking,
with this, because remember at the end of Waters of Mars, at the end where he does the whole Time Lord Victorious thing. He's in a right old grump, isn't he? He's in a right old mood. And if you look at the poses that have been chosen for the front of these the covers, especially the All Flesh is Grass one. He's got a right old mar on.
Yeah.
Hasn't he?
I'm thinking back. Remember when I got those badges of all the doctors, and was it the 10th Doctor one that looked really grumpy?
Yes, it was.
And I remember saying, like, why is he so grumpy? It must be this one.
Yeah, so on the one that's The Night, the Fallen and the Dead, he looks quite stern, quite on a bit of a mission. But on the other one, he looks like he's got a right grump on.
Yeah.
So maybe the other doctors are trying to calm him down a bit. Like, dude, we get the whole, you want to be sexy and stern and everything, but there's not the time for that. So let's just,
No 13th Doctor yet as well. I'm surprised they haven't tied her into all of this, but do you think it's going to be a sort of standalone away from, she'll have her own thing, and this is I get the feeling she won't be involved in this. I don't know. It seems odd not to have the current Doctor involved in it, but I just get a feeling this is going to be a sort of, I don't know, bit of a standalone thing. Well, I kind of hope it is in a way, to be honest.
I think so, yeah, because if you remember the original poster that they put out weeks ago, where it's got David Tennant in the Gallifrey and stuff.
Yeah.
Even that poster, it still only references 9 and 8, but we do have Rose on the front, along with the Yud and stuff.
The original poster, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't mention any other Doctors at this point. I guess it would depend on how successful this is. If people are like going nuts for it and want more, then they might expand the story out to include other Doctors. But I don't know, mate. At the moment, it's just those three.
Yeah. Which I think is good. It'll work quite well, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So there we go. A couple of books coming up at the end of the year to kick off the Time Lord Victorious stuff. Right, dude. Review time.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So we're already, after this, we're already halfway through the Trial of Time Lord. Can you believe it? So story 2, featuring our old mate, Seal. No, we mustn't go down. And it's called Mindwarp.
If we may see, from the Doctor's arrival on the planet Thoros Beta.
Sorcerers, evil demons, soul stealers.
How nice to see a familiar face again.
Doctor! What's going on here? Sea monsters upgraded to operate machinery, and wolfmen who beg for help.
Let's find out.
There's nothing more enjoyable than watching people suffer.
I have altered the basis of all future life. We must go!
Locate our allies, and then prepare to battle unto death!
One thing at a time, huh?
Balloony!
Confess.
Confess to what?
Your guilt, your bungling, your Alpen friends, everything!
You value your life?
I'm no hero.
I used to think that you were different. That you cared for justice, truth, and good.
Things have gone too far. You had released chaos.
And so they took it upon themselves to act like second-rate gods.
Welcome to your new body.
Wow, that was a belter of a trailer. That was from our old mate Reese, Gallifrey Forever 97. I think that's his YouTube channel.
Yes, yeah.
He also put this together for the BFI screening that you guys went to.
Yeah, that's right. I remember they gave him a little shout out at the start. Brilliant.
Yes. Nice one, Reese. I pinched that. I didn't ask you permission as usual. So, yeah, thank you for... if you have got a problem, I'm being serious, if you've got a problem, dude, then we have lawyers on standby to rectify that. But I'm joking. Reese is a very...
BFI car park.
He's a very cool guy, Reese. He's a good friend of ours. And I'm sure he won't mind. Yeah, what a cracking trailer from Reese. So, right. Jesus Christ. Mindwarp was released on the 4th of October until the 24th, 23rd to 25th of October. It's 4 parts, as was the case throughout season 23. It was written by Phil Martin, directed by Ron Jones, overseen by Eric Saywood. It's Colin Baker and Nicola Bryan, as is the case throughout all of this, and it's got, again, a fairly sizable supporting cast, and the kind of rough plot for this one is the trial is obviously continuing that we left back in the Mysterious Planet, and more evidence is now presented, showing this time from the Doctor's most recent adventure. He kind of gets plucked out of this one, and that's where we are in the timeline. So about I'd probably say about 3/4 of the way through, they pluck him out of this, and we had the Red Dwarf moment where he ends up at the Council of Time Lords. And this one features one of his old enemies, Syl, and there's a bunch of scientists doing sort of unethical experiments, and they're trying to prolong the life of Syl's boss, actually, Kiv. And there's a few sort of weird happenings with the Doctor's memory and acting out of character and so on. And then so this one is set basically just before the trial begins. So in the Mysterious Planet, that was one of his previous adventures that the Valeyard just decided to pick out and try and manipulate this one's sort of current timeline for where we are. Right then, dude. What you got on this one?
Mindwarp. Yeah. I enjoyed this more than Mysterious Planet, but I hardly say we're in the glory days of Doctor Who here. It was okay. I mean, I must admit, I thought the sort of first couple of episodes I was quite into it. I thought, it's not as bad, because it's not a story I gravitate towards very often, I'll be honest. Because I always remember it being quite gloomy and quite the tone of it being quite dark in whenever I think of the story, because I think about the whole ending and the thing with Perry is quite horrific. But I don't know, there's more humour in it. Watching it again yesterday, there's more humour in it than I remembered, which is good because it does help to sort of break the monotony of the story, because there isn't a great deal going on here. I mean, I like the concept of the whole, the transplanting of the brain because his head's closing. It's a good idea in terms of that they're trying to save Lord Kiv and they're experimenting to try and find a way. I like all that stuff. But I think by part 3, I was starting to get I was thinking, come on, let's wrap this up, because there is a lot of sort of running around the caves, bit of screaming, bit of capture. But the plus side of it is I like all the stuff where you're not quite sure if the Doctor's turned traitor or not. He hasn't, but there is that element where Colin seems to be sort of he does seem to be quite into what he's doing. You sort of think, I think the Doctor's actually quite enjoying helping out on this to try and find a way to do it. So it gave it a new dynamic, basically. Having the Doctor sort of turn traitor in brackets, it does give the story a new dynamic, and it was enough to keep me entertained all the way through. So while I don't think it's a classic, I did think it was decent. It wasn't, I didn't find it a bad story. It's another one where I just think it's a little bit average, but it was certainly more entertaining, I thought, than Mysterious Planet. There was some good humor bits in it. I do love that. What race is Syl? Because there's a sort of grumpy version of Syl in a cave that keeps telling Brian Blessed not to shout. I mean, scenes like that I thought were very fun and much needed in a story that's kind of grim like this. So there were, you know what I mean? There was that guy who was like, "Oh, please stop him shouting," and all that sort of stuff. I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah. So I think they're the mentor. Their species is called the Mentors.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, and I like the relationship between Kiv and Syl as well, because Kiv's just an absolute git, isn't he?
He's a savage. Yeah.
He's a savage, and Syl just sucks up to him all the way through because he's just scared to death of being, killed by him, basically, because he's got no respect at all for Syl, has he? He's just like, if anything happens to me, I've given orders you're to die. And Syl's like, oh my God. So that was a fun, I thought those two together, again, brought a bit of fun to this kind of bleak story. I did like the interaction between Kiv and Syl. I thought that was quite funny. It's played for sort of humour as well. It's dark, but it's a dark humour, but I think it does work quite well. So yeah, so there was quite a few bits in there I did enjoy like that. As I said, certainly not bad, but maybe not great. Just kind of in the middle on this one again. But yeah, it's all right. What about you? I get the feeling you're not a fan of this. I just get the feeling it didn't do much for you, this one.
No, it doesn't do this much for me, this one, mate. I'll be honest with you. I much prefer, this is going to sound weird, but I preferred The Mysterious Planet.
Really? That does surprise me, actually. I thought you'd like this one more.
Yeah. Do you know what? With this one, I just find it to be... First of all, this could have been a 2-parter very easily. This so could have been a 2 40-minute parts or 2, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much padding and plodding along.
There is a lot of
all
padding.
That stuff.
Yeah.
And also, if the trial stuff wasn't happening, it would also be one of the most pointless stories you've ever seen. Not the most pointless, but one of the most pointless things you've ever seen, because the whole crux of the matter is there's nothing really at stake. The whole crux of the story is Kiv getting to a meeting on time.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the story, isn't it? It's like he's hired this scientist guy, or kidnapped him, or we don't even know. We don't even know why this guy's here. He's kidnapped this scientist guy on with the threat of death if ever anything happens to him, to put his mind, basically he's too intelligent for his own skull. It seems like he's got these headaches and everything, and his brain's expanding and his body's not coping. So he's hired this guy to transplant his thoughts and his mind into another body, just because he wants to get to a business meeting to make sure he can make the right decisions. It's like, it's completely like so as soon as I watched this one, when I got the DVD set anyway years ago and I first watched it, and I had exactly the same thought when I watched it yesterday as well. The first thing when I finished watching it was, what was the bloody point of all of that? If you take the Vale Yard trial stuff away for a second, it's like, frickin' hell. They could have had a bit more at stake in order to take down or stop Kiv and Scylla and stuff. It's just that really does it for me, dude. It's like they haven't got any grand plans to like take over the planet. They haven't got any grand plans to try and get some enormous power that's going to make them powerful or anything like that. They just want to sit around eating bloody jelly, eating jelly, and
jelly,
then having a meeting with one of the worst head puppet mask things I've ever seen in Doctor Who.
Was that a repainted Terra? How do you say it? From Visitation.
Terra
I'm sure that's I'm sure that's from Visitation. Just
I don't
painted
know, mate.
A different colour.
It was
when it walked in, I was like, "What the heck?"
Well, it was bright pink, and the teeth were painted on in this big funny grin,
like Rylan.
Yeah, and its eyes were not painted on straight. So it's like
maybe Eagle Moss did it.
Are you looking at me, or are you looking the other way, or at the same time? I'm not quite sure. And so dude, I mean, it's like the Mysterious Planet, I really like the trial scenes where the Doctor is to-ing and throwing with the Valyard and stuff. That's all very cool. But this one takes a slightly different direction, because in the Mysterious Planet, the Doctor is very, very brash and confident that this is all a farce and he's going to be fine and all that stuff. In this one, you can see that he's starting to worry a little bit because, and as we find out later on in the story, which we won't spoil at the moment, but we find out that how he acted in this story is not quite. He's lost his memory of certain chunks of the story for very good reason, and he can't quite believe it. And things are so. At the end of this story, he clocks that something is not right about it.
Yeah,
and he's like, kind of takes it on as his personal mission to, alongside trying to defend himself and prove his innocence, also find out why he's actually there in the first place and what all this evidence is really about and where it's come from. So that's kind of cool. I like all that stuff. But the actual story itself, mate, and there's the Brian Blessed character, the big barbarian guy. I just couldn't understand him for sort of 80% of what he was saying. Like the quiet moments, like when he's talking to Perry, is quite nice, and he sort of falls for her a little bit, doesn't he? And that's quite funny. And
there is a lovely scene between him and Perry, isn't there? Where he's love, what be love, mistress, and all this sort of stuff. I thought that was quite a nice little moment.
So that stuff was really nice. That's all good. But then when for most of the story, he's just like, in typical Brian Blessed fashion, obviously he's like bellowing out these huge lines and stuff. But I just can't understand him. I don't really know what he's saying. I just took it like, oh, he's just shouting some warrior stuff, and he's always up for a scrap, and it's all quite funny. It's quite a humorous story, but yeah, dude, I can't get into this one, mate, just because. And also some of the acting's like really questionable really questionable. So there's a guy that they find down in the tunnels, and there's like this other sort of group of people that are living in the tunnels, it looks like. And he's absolutely awful. I can't remember what his name is, his character name. It's the guy with the headband.
Oh, him.
The tie around his head.
Yeah. He's really forgettable. So I'm not even going to be ashamed that we've forgotten his name, because he is terrible.
Is it Tuza, maybe? Tuza or Matrona, one of the two.
Could be.
Can't remember. And then the scientist guy who's doing the transplant. I mean, crikey, come on.
He's very very British.
Yeah. But he's over
posh.
the top a lot of it. So there's a scene where he's just about to start operating, and the camera zooms in on his face.
And he does the eye.
He does this eye thing, like he's over exaggerating what he has to sort of focus on. The director said, look, we're going to focus in on your face, but you have to make it really obvious that you're looking at something particular and really concentrating.
I remember people at the BFI really laughing at that bit, and not for the right reasons either. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, it was a bit cringe. That bit and the bit where the people have somehow, there's this sort of weird scene where these people sort of start going out of control in the cave at the end, where they're all just sort of rattling around the cave, spinning around. I remember people laughing at that as well, because what the hell? No, I agree. It's a bit of a mixed bag, this one. I do think one of the things that I said about Mysterious Planet was I couldn't really understand why the Valeyard was using that story to demonstrate his points, because the Doctor didn't really do anything in that story that, backed up the Valeyards. See, look what he does. Whereas at least this story, I thought it does relate to that. You could see that, the Doctor chaining Perry up to the rocks, which is a horrendous scene, isn't it? I mean, poor Nicola Bryant having to suffer that. It looks so uncomfortable. But it's quite a nasty scene. You're not quite sure, is the Doctor doing this for show, or is he really lost it? Because he switches between the two. And even Colin at the time said he didn't know quite what was going on there, whether the Doctor was or wasn't. But yeah, I thought at least this story actually related more to what the Valeyard was trying to show about the Doctor. So there are scenes in this where, the Valeyard sort of makes good points in a way. He's like, you see, the Doctor killed the creature, and the Doctor's like, well, no, the gun went off by mistake, and all this sort of. So at least it related more to the trial scenes, which is one of the reasons I think I enjoyed it a little bit more. It's funny because when I watched this at the BFI, I do remember I was really quite bored a lot of the time. Whereas watching it yesterday at home, as I said, I was quite into the first two stories. It goes to show, doesn't it? If you're in a different mood, but normally BFI, I'll be. Even if it's, something like Mindwarp, I'm normally sort of really into it. But I remember thinking at the BFI, God, this is quite a slog at the time. Maybe it's because I could sort of break it up a little bit at home. I don't know. I think it does benefit from perhaps watching 2 and 2 like I did. But yeah. But yeah, maybe. You know what I mean about the trial scenes.
Yeah,
so I think they did relate more. And I liked the trial scenes. I agree with you. It was good to see the Doctor going from sort of bombastic confidence to like questioning, because I liked it when Colin, the Doctor, was like, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what's going on. And the Valeyard's, well, you've got a shot coming and all this. I thought it added a little bit of tension to what was going on, so that was good. And they get rid of the what's she called? The Inquisitor soon slaps Colin down, doesn't it? Because right at the start, he's like, the brickyard here. And she's like, right, we'll put an end to this straight away. He's not the brickyard, the knackers yard, the whatever yard anymore. Show some respect. And I thought, okay, that's killed that. So yeah, I enjoyed the trial scenes in this as well. I thought they seemed to work better with the story.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting, that bit where the Doctor gets pulled out of time as well. I don't know what it is about that shot, but I really like it. Just the way the TARDIS is suddenly there, and then the Doctor sort of reverses back into it, and it's I don't know, I've always quite liked that scene. It's strange, isn't it? And you sort of think, oh no, because you know what's happening to Perry. It's quite a shocking moment, I think, that they pull the Doctor out at that point. So that was quite good as well. That
was actually yeah, that was quite cool. Yes,
at least Perry gets something to do in this story as well. That's one of the things that was really lacking in Mysterious Planet, wasn't it? She got nothing to do in this one. She gets some, like the nice scene with Yukanos, and she gets to do a few bits and bobs, and obviously the ending Perry's demise at the end is horrific in this. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that? It's a shock. Even now, I find it quite shocking because I think it's the voice when they modulate the voice and she sort of sits up with that bald head. It's quite shocking, I think, even now.
Yeah, that voice and stuff. Yeah, it's been overdubbed, hasn't it, by Kiv?
It sounds like the Exorcist, doesn't it?
It does a bit. Yeah, it's quite creepy.
Yeah. Do you think it's a good exit for Perry, though? I've never liked it. I know that they kind of retcon it later on. Sorry, spoilers. I know they do a dreadful retcon later, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But I've never liked this exit for Perry. I know she wanted it. I know Nicola Bryant said, she wanted to go out in a shocking manner, and it certainly is. But I don't like it. I find it a bit sadistic.
Yeah. No, I read you. It's an interesting way to go. It's certainly it's better than just saying something like, oh, thank you for traveling with me, all the best.
It's definitely memorable.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got a good point. It is memorable for
sure. But at the same time, I mean, it's a shame really, because in the last story they could have given her a wee bit more to do. And also one thing that does irk me a little bit is there's a little bit of a rehash of the past story really. So if you think to the mysterious planet, Perry goes off and then she gets lumped in with 2 prisoners. And then in this story, she goes off, she gets lumped in with 2. She gets lumped in with what's his name? Yukanos.
Yukanos.
And his mate who got turned into a wolf dog thing.
That's horrible, that wolf dog thing.
Dorf, I think his name was. Yeah, Dorf.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a rehash as well. So again, they don't really give her too much to do. And then at the end, when she does get the mind transplant and all the rest of it, that's really not anything that she's actively doing. She's just been captured. So again, it's not a huge amount for her to do. So yeah, old Perry, she doesn't really. Yeah, I mean, I much preferred Perry when she was with Davison's doctor.
So do I. Yeah. And then she's only in 2 stories with him. And I always think that she just the character didn't seem as whiny. It didn't seem, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more of Perry in 5. I know they have softened the relationship between Perry and the Doctor by this point. It's certainly better than it was. But yeah, I don't know. The character's just not really there for me. I agree with you. I like her with 5 as well.
Yeah, the same. And because I think this was a little bit sort of too little too late for Perry and the Doctor's relationship to have progressed, because in the previous season he was such a git to her the time.
Why would she stay with him? I mean,
exactly, God. Yeah. And then in this one, you can tell they've written him to be a bit softer and a bit more likable towards her. But then it's too late; she's off. So yeah, I much prefer her with Davison, but.
I just thought, because Davison, if you think about it, the Doctor goes from saving Perry's life, sacrificing himself, to strangling her about half an hour later after regenerating. It's she'd have been out of there, wouldn't she?
Absolutely.
She'd have been like, I'm not having this.
Yep. And that's also the thing with some stronger companions that we've seen over the years. So people like Donna and Rose, those sorts of people, they wouldn't have had it. They wouldn't have had that at all. They wouldn't have put up with Donna. That. Exactly. So in a way, they should have... Actually, no, that's unfair to say. In a way, it would have been nice for them to have written Perry to be a little bit stronger, because she does try. She does argue back a bit. But the thing is, she turns out to be just a bit defeatist a lot of the time. She's sort of, she's halfway through arguing with the Doctor. He says something and then she just sort of huffs and she's like, oh, you're right, Doctor.
Yeah.
And then we're off and then she's sad again. And, it just... So, but that's the thing though, in this season and these stories, these first 2 anyway, you can tell that they're on the right road. It is a much nicer atmosphere between the 2 of them when they're on screen and all that stuff. It's just not enough of it.
Yeah, because there's scenes where they're sort of working together quite nicely when he's like, right, we're going to try the, what does he call it? The escape maneuver or something, when they sort of throw that creature over in the cave to escape and of course immediately get recaptured. But yeah, there's nice scenes where they work together quite well like that. But I agree, I've always wanted Perry to be a stronger character. I mean, it'll be no surprise to people listening to hear me say that Big Finish did a good job of carrying her character on and making her a lot stronger. So she does get that. What did you think of Syl in this? Because obviously the last time we saw him, I mean, again, he was doing horrible things to Perry. He turns her into a blooming bird or something in Varos, doesn't he? If I remember right. I haven't watched Varos for a while. Well, I watched it on the live stream the other night, but not properly. Yeah, what do you think of Syl though? I mean, he's got a new mask which is much improved. Because do you remember in Varos, he's sort of flapping around. You can see it's a mask. They've improved his costume in this, and I think Kiv looks pretty good as well. I think the costumes are pretty decent.
Yeah, two things though. Yeah, two things on that, mate. In the first part, when Syl is talking to the Doctor, there's a bit where there's like a round. It looks like when you were younger and you used to have those drawstring hoods, and you used to put it up over your head and then draw it really tight, so it covers up most of your face. It feels like they've used something similar in like the head part of his costume, but it wasn't done up enough. So in that first scene, it's like slipping down, and it almost covers up. It certainly covers up one of his eyes. Yeah, and it's like resting on his eyelid on the other eye. So as he's trying to like be really serious and shouty at the Doctor, his costume's like falling. That's the only time it does it. Now I think they picked up on it. Yeah, I think they picked up on it after that, because it's like firmly in place for the rest of the story. But I do agree with you though; it does look better than when we saw him last. It just there's no flaky bits and falling off bits, and the only thing that was funny about when they, because this is their home planet, right? Or not their home planet, but this is where the mentors are from.
Their home planet. Yeah.
So Thoros Beta. Yeah. So there's like another species of these things, isn't there? Like the beige brownie looking ones, and it's really funny when the scientist guy is looking around Crozier. He's like explaining the new body, and he picks up the tail and he's like, look, this species has not evolved yet and has lost its stinger. And at the end, it's like this big rubbery, wobbly bit at the end. It looks like a Swiss roll. And he's just like wobbling it around like, dangerous thing, this stinger. And he's like wobbling it around. And I thought they were going to use that later on. I thought that Kiv was going to use the stinger on somebody, and
they should have,
But it was funny though. But having said that, the costumes overall were not too bad for the mentors, because there's another character that we see later on. He's just sort of chilled out in the pool by the prison cells, and he just wants a bit of peace and quiet and stuff. And his costumes, again, it's very good and stuff.
I love that bit where he's like, "Thank you," and he's like, "What for? For sparing your life?" He's like, "No, for not shouting." He's speaking for all of us then there.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think of the character? I mean, Syl is similar to how he was in Varys, but he's definitely more humorous in this, isn't he? He's sort of quite gruesome and grotesque in Varys, and in this he's still gruesome and grotesque, but he's also quite comical in his scenes, like when he's creeping up to Kiv, he's like, "Oh, master," and all, he's all It's a bit more comedy to his performance in this. But what do you think to Syl and Kiv as a pairing on screen? I mean, I quite like Kiv. What's his name? The actor from The Young Ones, Christopher Ryan. He goes on to be a Sontaran, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I thought he was playing it again quite comedic, but sort of not without being over the top. I quite liked him as Kiv. I thought they were quite funny together, those two. But what did you think?
I do think, I'm undecided on Syl still.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just because.
I thought you liked Syl.
Yeah, no, he's cool. He's funny. But the problem with Syl is that I don't know, the way he's written is very good, but it's just, I don't know, Nabil Shaban, just the way he delivers his lines. I don't know. It just irks me after a little while. Like I can, he's one of those characters that I find very cool, but only in small doses. So
I'm with you.
Yeah, so I can put up with it for an episode, and then after that, it's just, and like the treatment that they put on the voice track and that stuff. It's funny, but for me, Kiv was just brilliant in this.
You like him?
Yeah, just because I love that grumpy old man kind of. You can tell that he's just had enough of everyone throughout the story. He's got to that point where he's just had it. He's had enough of Syl banging on in his ear. He's had enough of the experiments and stuff. He just wants his new body so he can just go and have a sit down, excuse the pun, and have his meetings and have a bit of jelly. That's all he wants to do. And he's just got this constant, like, to him, it probably feels like a fly buzzing around his head all the time with Syl just banging on and both are so glad that you're alive. And all that lot. And you can tell in his face, he's just rolling his eyes like, oh, God, you're here, are you? So I really love how his character was. One of the best things for me in the story was just how brilliantly just can't be bothered attitude of Kiv and just this frustration that he's got all these imbeciles around him. He just wants his body, just do that. And the frustration that builds with him and stuff. So I much preferred Kiv to Syl in this one.
Fair enough. I like them both, but I do agree. I think Kiv's it definitely gives a new dynamic, because in Varos, as I said, you've just got Syl, but to have another sort of member of his species and a totally different character as well, like you said, whereas Syl's just this creep who, Kiv's got power, but he's just a grumpy old man. It's just really good difference of character between the two, and it works really well, I think. So the funny little heart monitor things as well that he's bleeping away. Yeah, he's good. I like Christopher Ryan in this.
No idea. He is cool. Yeah, what do you think to Crozier? I know we mentioned him briefly, but he's the dude that's running the lab, doing all this stuff, and he's a sort of, I don't know, he's not terrible, but he is very, I was going to say of the time. There's a lot of that sort of acting back in Doctor of the Day. He's just a bit over the top, but I don't think he's, I'm not guilty pleasure, but you know what I mean? He's not bad, but he's not good. but I don't look at him and think, oh, he's not like the two twins in Mysterious Planet that I thought was so bad that they shouldn't have even made it to screen. He's sort of bad in a sort of almost camp, very sort of posh surgeon type way that I think kind of works in terms of the story. So I don't mind him. Like the bit where he does the eye, like that scene you talked about earlier, made me laugh. I thought it was quite funny. I don't know if it's supposed to be, but I don't know. I thought he was all right for the part. I think he's sort of trying to play it a bit comedic-ish, but also trying to play it straight at times. Like when they smash up his laboratory and he's trying to protect it all and stuff like that is pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't too bad. Yeah, it's just a few scenes really. He seemed to be up and down. Like some scenes where he was more laid back, he was fine. Because he kind of came across as a bit, and also there was no, there didn't seem to be any panic on his side either. There was one scene where he's talking to his assistant, and she's saying, this is going to be the best experiment yet. It's going to work, and I think he just very, very calmly and lazily says something like, "Well, it's going to be the last one if it doesn't work."
Yeah.
And you just think, well, I'm pretty sure if you were faced with certain death for this failure, you're going to be a bit more into it than that, mate. So I just found him up and down. And then the scenes where he's really chewing the woodwork, that was cringe territory for me.
There is a bit of cringe. There's definitely a bit of cringe. Yeah.
Yeah. He was not too bad. I don't know. He was just a bit cringy in some parts. But the scenes where he was just kind of laid back and doing his thing is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind him, but he is a bit cringe.
Yukanos then.
Yukanos!
Brian. What do you reckon then? Old Blessed doing his thing. You can't beat a bit of Blessed now and then.
I don't know what I make of Yukanos. he's certainly entertaining, and he certainly does wake you up in this story when you need it. Like there are bits where you're drifting off, and then Yukanos bursts in the room, and you're back in. He is fun in it. I mean, I love the scene. I love the scene at the start where Crozier thinks he's put him under anaesthetic, and he's talking about, yes, he's a dumb creature, it'll take longer with him and all this. And he thinks he's under, and then he just wakes up quickly to go, scum! and then goes back to sleep. So there's fun little bits like that. But yeah, interesting character. I think it would be a lot less entertaining without him. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. Yeah. I'm undecided, really.
Yeah.
Apart from me trying to figure out what he was saying half the time, he was quite funny, though.
He is
That's
funny.
the
I mean,
thing.
he's way over the top.
Of course, yeah. But that's just Brian Blessed, though.
That's Brian Blessed.
This is going to sound really weird. The one and only time I've ever seen an episode. There was a program here in the UK years ago. I don't even know if it was that good or not, but I watched one episode of it a while ago because I was really bored and I was flicking through and I just happened to leave it on. There was a program back in the day called, it was about an antiques dealer and he was always got schemes and scams. Lovejoy, it was called.
Oh, Lovejoy, yeah.
Yeah. And Brian Blessed's in one of those episodes. It's the only one I've ever seen. And even in that, where he plays just a businessman and he has like various dodgy dealings with people and stuff, he's the same. He's exactly the same. And if you watch, like, he did a recent spat of adverts for some gambling thing, I think, a year or so ago. Exactly the same. So I think when you're going to cast Brian Blessed, you've got to be prepared just to have big, boomy, shouty stuff going on.
It's what he's known for, isn't it?
Exactly,
really?
Yeah. So because of that, you kind of expect it. You're like, okay, this is the Blessed doing his thing. But I just can't decide whether or not he actually needed to be there. Did you just say that?
No, but weirdly, I was thinking it. It's like you read my mind. But as I said, if he wasn't there, I think the story would be...
That's right, sorry, yeah.
Suffer, yeah.
So it's weird to me because we have these mental characters like Syl and all the rest of it, and we assume, rightly or wrongly, that there's like loads of them on this planet, and they're the only three that we actually see in the story. But yet, there's this... It almost feels like Yrcanos has been plopped out of time somewhere and dropped into the story, and he's just, regardless of where he is and when he is, he's just this crazy barbarian dude that just wants to fight everybody. Yeah. So I don't know where he's come from. I don't know whether it's because that's what I said earlier, there's this other race of people that are sort of hiding out underneath in the tunnels and stuff. And they kind of, I think they're called the Alphan Resistance. They're like a small band of people, right? So they kind of pop up as well. But the Yrcanos character, we assume, is just another humanoid sort of race of people that also live on the planet, I guess. Is that right?
Guess so. Yeah. I
don't
know either, to be honest. Yeah. Because he does feel very different to everyone else in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because the guy that they run into in the tunnels, you know, the guy that's been experimented on and is now like a werewolfy sort of thing. He was from the same group of people, right? Yrcanos, who's the king apparently of the barbarians or whatever. But it just felt like he could have plopped up in any story. Like he would have done brilliantly in Battlefield. Or he would have,
or even Mysterious Planet, actually. He would have been great in that, wouldn't he?
Oh, of course, yeah. So I'm still undecided whether his character actually needed to be in the story or not, and what sort of relevance he played, other than the mechanism to get Perry from being captured to being captured again later on in the story. I'm still undecided, but as a character, fairly entertaining and comical.
I like the fact we see the power of the Time Lords a little bit in this, where they pull the Doctor out of the, they recall him back to Gallifrey, and also they pause time or something, don't they? I wasn't 100% clear what was going on there, but just after they've taken the Doctor away, like Yrcanos sort of freezes, don't they? And then they haven't just paused the video on the screen. I think they've sort of paused time, haven't they? And he's like, well, what did you do? He said, well, we had to use him to to finish up this mess that you've created and all this. So he goes in and obliterates the whole palace. So I thought that was all quite good, just to see, the Time Lords can meddle and interfere and sort of do stuff like that. Oh, that was quite cool. I would love to see the outtake of Brian, but apparently, I think it's on the screen text you can watch when watching these episodes. I think it says something about when he burst through the room, he has some lines to say as he's shooting, and I think something went wrong, but he just carried on. But instead of saying the words, he just said a load of expletives. So they sort of use the footage, but dub out the audio and fade it to white, so you can't see what he's saying. I'd love to see the uncut. What the fuck? Screaming and shouting and effing and blinding. Because I think because he had to wreck the place, they could probably only do it once. Without setting it all up again. So I think they were just like, we'll sort it out in the edit. Don't worry, Brian. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine, mate. Don't worry. Yeah. So what did you think to... Oh, actually, just a bit of... just a confirmation on this. So Yrcanos was from the planet Krontep. And his species is also called Krontep.
Oh, right.
A humanoid warrior species from the planet Krontep. How
What's he doing
ends
on
up,
that planet?
Well, I don't know. I've no idea. There's obviously been some kind of expedition somewhere and they've grabbed... Oh, because I think in order to backfill a little bit, it sounds like they were looking for a very suitable host for Kiv. And obviously a big warrior, strong-bodied person would be a good host.
He would have been, actually. Why didn't... Oh, yeah. Well, they couldn't control him, could they? But he'd have been a great person to transplant Kiv's mind into, wouldn't he? Because he's strong and big and
yeah, there we go.
And they missed out there.
Yeah. What do you think to the visual effects in this one? Because the opening couple of minutes are very extravagant.
I think for the time, they look quite good. I do love the planet and all that. I think you can see that they've tried, and the filter on the planet to make it look just a little bit different from the quarries that we always see. So although it doesn't really stand up to today's effects, I do think it's got a charm to it. I really do love the scene of the TARDIS landing in the water with the Saturn ring planet behind it and all that. I just think it looks nice, and it's it's of its time, but I think it looks good. I quite like the visuals. I think with the filter on the planet, it's perhaps a bit garish, but it just makes it something a bit different from being just a white quarry, which it clearly is.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's all right. Yeah.
It was a rip-off.
Oh no, of what?
Yeah. So there was a New Zealand film called The Quiet Earth, which was out in 1985. So a year before this went out. And the planet that you see stretching off into the distance, and then the big planet with the rings around it, they just used that. So,
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dear.
Yep.
Everything's a rip-off. I noticed that the water's very deep when they get out of the TARDIS. I think they mentioned this at the BFI as well, that, the tide had come up quite a lot in between setting up. And, I think if they hadn't got that in the can when they did, I think probably the TARDIS would have been underwater, because when Colin actually steps out, he's it's just a little water. He's pretty much up to his waist
almost
when he gets in, isn't it? But I think in the script he still says so it's only a little water. What are you worried about, Perry, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you can see it's pretty deep. But also, I imagine fixing the TARDIS up in the water and not having it. I mean, what did they weigh it down with? Rocks? I mean, that prop, I'm amazed that didn't just drift off into the sea. They must have tied that down somehow.
I think so.
Because it looks pretty solid. You know what I mean? Normally, the TARDIS is a bit wobbly, bless it.
Yeah, but I did quite like the effect there, like the bright pink water and stuff.
Yeah, it added to it.
That kind of thing, that effect on its own is pretty sweet. And we spoke about this weeks ago in one of the stories we reviewed. I think it was last month. We said that it was the first time that they had used this technology at the BBC, and one of the things that they always pull out when they're talking about it is that shot of the TARDIS with the pink water and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Music's a bit odd in this one, isn't it? I couldn't decide if I liked it or not, really.
Yeah, I quite like the music in The Mysterious Planet. That's quite cool, but this one, it was a bit
There's this sort of musical sting that they keep using, which I found a bit irritating after a while. Who was the composer? Because it sounds... Richard Hartley. See, that's not a name I know. So I don't think he did many.
No, he didn't. No.
In fact, I don't think he did any other Doctor Who, according to Wikipedia I've just read. It's not bad, the music. It's certainly of its time very 80s and stuff, but it's a bit odd in places, I think.
Yeah.
And might
No, I
be
agree.
might be why he never worked on Doctor Who again. I don't know.
Probably.
Mm.
Yeah, and then the sets were nothing great, to be honest. The underground tunnels were okay, but the massive doors they had for the prison cells, they're kind of cool. But the sets inside the science lab, when they're doing the mind transplant and all that stuff, it just looked like a big white, overly lit, as usual.
There's one shot, isn't there, where they've put like a matte effect painting over it.
Yeah.
To make it look, it's interesting. You can see what they were going for.
Yes.
Just to make it look like the outside of that dome, which is quite interesting. But I think we only see that once, don't we?
We do. Yeah. It's in part 2, I think.
Yeah, I found the sets a bit gloomy, I'll be honest with you. A bit cheap, but yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you got, dude, on this?
No, sorry, I was still reading about the music. No, I don't think I have. I mean, I thought Colin... because I haven't really talked much about Colin. I thought he was decent in this. I think it was saved a bit by him getting this sort of dynamic of possibly being a traitor, because I did like that. But there was a bit when he's, when he's first taken off the chair, that when he's sort of been operated on and he's playing it, he's gone a bit doolally.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was a bit too over the top in that. I think the director should have said, just tone it down a little, Colin, because it was a bit cringy, to be honest. The acting wasn't too good in that scene. I think it's almost too comedic. I think you feel almost like they're in a rehearsal, him and Brian Blessed just having a bit of a laugh, trying to mimic each other. And I didn't think that scene worked particularly well. But thankfully, after that, when he sort of turned a bit traitorish, I think he's much better. Like, I do like the scene when Perry comes in to give him a drink, and he says, here she is, and he unmasks her and all that. And you're like, Doctor, what are you doing? I like all that stuff. So yeah, he's definitely better in the sort of second half of the episode, I think, and good in the trial scenes as well. But yeah, I just thought he was a bit, I don't know, not quite hitting the mark in the scene with Brian Blessed when he was supposed to be a bit doolally.
No, I agree, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, and Nicola's good. I mean,
yeah, she's okay.
Yeah, she's, as I said, I do think it's an interesting, and I mean that in a good way, performance from her at the end when she's not possessed, but she's had her transplant. I think she really does go for it in those scenes. I like it. She's proper Exorcist scary. So I think she did well with what she was given in this script. Yeah. But apart from that, indeed, I don't think I got much else. The only other thing I've got written down is Nasty Dog Man, because I thought the dog creature guy looked horrific, horrible.
Yeah, the makeup wasn't too bad on his face. He looked fairly convincing.
Yeah.
The actor had his mouth open really wide the whole time, pretty much, when they were in those scenes. It must have killed his jaw after a little while, but it didn't look too bad. Fairly convincing.
I remember I hated it as a kid. It really scared me as a kid, that thing. So I still don't like it now. But it did look quite good for the time. But no, I don't think I've got anything else written down. I have got something, but I can't read it. Been trying to read it ever since we started the review on my pad. So, no, seems courtroom scenes. No, don't know what it is I've written there. Nothing important. My writing's terrible, because I write as I'm watching it. I sort of scribble it down, half watching the screen, half writing on my pad, and half the time I can't read what I've written on the pad afterwards anyway. But yeah, I think I've pretty much covered it.
Cool. Yeah, me too, buddy. I haven't got anything else. Scores-wise, I think it's me to go first. I'm going to give this a 4.5.
Oh, gosh, that's low. What did you rate Mysterious Planet?
6.
6. See, I rated it 6.5, and I enjoyed this slightly more, so I'm giving it a 7.
A 7. So Mindwarp for me, it just plods along. It's nothing substantial. The stakes are completely just ridiculous. The whole reason why Kiev wants to transplant his mind is just completely, I don't know. I can't get my head into that. It's just inconsequential stuff, and the acting's not great in this one. And yeah, it's not a great continuation for this overall story. So yeah, not a fan of this one too much, buddy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So a 7 from him. 4.5 from me. We had some audio clips in. Thank you very much, guys. We're going to kick off with our regular reviewer, Sammy from Down Under.
G'day, Gary and Adam. Sammy Satine here. So, Mindwarp, well, Christopher Ryan is Lord Kiev, who later became a Sontaran. Syl is back. I never liked Syl. He's not very nice to Perry, whom I have frequently believed deserved better. Brian Blessed is Brian Blessed. Michael Jaston, the Valiant, is still good. I think the Valiant needs to return. He's a very interesting character, and I want to know which origin story the show will stick with. Created by the CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency, or the other origin story. I've seen this story before, and I know what happens. Sagacity is good too. I give it 6 Lord Kivs out of 10. See ya.
6.
6 from Sammy.
Not too
6
bad.
sills out of 10.
6 sills, yeah. I'm quite impressed so far. We've kept the sill impressions to a minimum.
Yes.
Which is good. Thank you very much, Sammy. Moving on. Alex Kingdom.
Hello, Gary and Adam of the Big Blue Box podcast. How are you guys doing? Now, today, it's Mindwarp Part 2. Is that 2? I don't know. I think it's 2. Well, it is Part 2, but I don't know whether what I pronounced was 2. Anyway, off track. Welcome to Part 2 of the Trial of a Time Lord. Now, last week, you will hopefully remember that I was very harsh on Part 1. Part 2, small improvement. I preferred Mindwarp over the 2. There was more consequence to the story. I rather enjoyed that. Syl is always a pleasure, without question. I like Syl. I preferred him in Vengeance on Varos than this story. I thought it was just a solid story. This one, not bad, not great, not good. So it's just kind of in the middle. A lot better than last week though, so I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Next week though, I believe we got Terror of the, they're called Vervoids, but I think we all know that they're something else. But I'll leave that up to the imagination, eh? But no, 6.5, a solid story with more consequence for the Doctor. But yeah, next week. Oh, not looking forward to that one. All the best, guys. See you later.
Not looking forward to Terror the Vervoids. That's
the
Mel, isn't it?
The Verbs, yeah, Mel, yeah. Oh dear. Well, thank you very much, though, Alex. Yeah. Prefers Mysterious Planet. No, prefers Mindwarp, sorry.
Mindwarp, and a fan of Syl.
And a fan, yeah. He has got his fans, let's be honest. Yes. Thank you very much, Alex, as always. Moving on. I think you might know this guy. I've heard his name battered around certain circles. I've never met him in person, but I do know the name. So, next reviewer, this is Adam Amoon.
I am King Carnos! Actually, no, my name's Adam. Hello, Gary and Adam. You may not have known me. Tall guy, curly hair. No? Okay. So, you guys are talking about Mindwarp on this show, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to jump in and say it's Colin Baker's final story on TV. Colin is both unpredictable, brilliant, and sometimes a little bit terrifying. Top that with a brilliant cast. Nicola Bryan giving it a fantastic performance, a final performance as Purple Gillian Brown. Nabil Shabbat, Christopher Ryan, Brian Blessed, good God. Top that with a completely dark, twisted story that is written and performed brilliantly. Thoros Beta. Love that, on Thoros Beta, love that shot where the TARDIS materializes, phenomenal. And yeah, a terrific watch. Also, I was at the BFI for this and I had to drop off a letter from Lady Painfort. That was cool. Anyway, guys, take care, wash your hands, stay safe, enjoy the show.
It does sound familiar.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that
he does,
letter
doesn't
as
he?
well. I'm getting a flashback, but no.
Yeah.
I never knew, in all seriousness, I never knew Adam was such a big fan of this story. I knew he liked it, but I didn't know you considered it Colin's finest. I'm sure that's down to Yukanos.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So, listeners that are not aware, Adam is a good friend of ours, and we see him a lot. So he's at all the conventions and meetups and stuff. He's a great guy. And me too. When I've obviously spoken plenty to him over the years about Doctor Who, I never knew that he was a big Mindwarp fan. So,
no.
Yeah, good on you, dude. Thanks very much for the review. Moving on, this is Seb Lane.
Hello, Gary and Adam. So, Mindwarp. Well, what do I think of Mindwarp? I hadn't watched this one in a good few years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I liked the king person. I totally forgot his name. My apologies. And I thought Colin Baker was good in it. The trial room scenes were actually okay compared to the last one. And I totally forgot how brutal Perry's death was, and it actually shocked me. And when the episode finished, I was left thinking, oh my god, is that it? That is it. That's Perry's final story. So overall, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. See ya.
7.5, eh?
7.5. Yeah, I wonder, for anyone who is perhaps watching these along with us for the first time, I wonder if they're perhaps ready for the little retcon. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
That we get to do with Perry? I'm not going to ruin it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for people. And I know there are some people who are watching this for the first time, which is why I've really tried our best to not try and reference future stuff that's going to come up in the next two parts. But yeah, that's going to be a bit of a moment, I think.
Yeah, and when I say retcon, I don't mean it. I'm not giving it away. I'm just saying that there is a little flashback coming to do with that.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting to talk about when we get to it. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you very much, Seb. Appreciate that as always. A 7.5. Moving on. This is Mr. Craig Bryce.
Hi guys, hope you're both well. So, Mindwarp, what do I think of this one? Well, I think this is a really good story, actually. I think Philip Martin delivered a really good script here. It is my favourite part out of the Trial of a Time Lord series. There's only one thing in it that does bug me, but we'll get to that in a moment. I think everybody involved in this is absolutely fantastic, especially Nabil Shaban as Syl. I think Syl is probably the last great classic villain from classic Doctor Who. He's up there with the Daleks and the Sontarans for me. I think Patrick Rycroft as Crozier, I think he also does a good performance. Colin Baker, brilliant as normal. The only thing for me is Brian Blessed. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Brian Blessed, but I find it hard to believe that he would strike up a relationship with Perry. I find that very hard to believe. Talking of Perry, I think her demise at the end is absolutely shocking, but unfortunately it gets spoilt in the next part, but never mind. All in all, I think it is a good story. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Cheers guys, speak to you next week, bye.
8.
Oh, we nearly gave it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Craig, for that, dude. Yeah, an 8. Wow, that's a pretty decent score.
He likes it, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, dude. And then lastly, this is Mr. Matt Steele.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Matt Steele here again. Hope you guys are well and having a good week. So, this week, the second part of the Trial in the Time Lord saga, Mindwarp. Yeah, I enjoyed this story more than The Mysterious Planet. I thought the acting from Colin and Nicola was really good, and overall the story was much more intriguing than last week's. However, as good as it was to see the great Brian Blessed in this, his over-the-top acting gets on your nerves after a while. I especially liked how this story took a dark turn in supposedly killing Perry, however I doubt she'll remain dead forever. I enjoyed this second instalment of the trial arc a lot more than the first. I give Mindwarp a 7 out of 10. Cheers guys, I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time to put your thoughts down in an audio review, as all of our audio reviewers. A massive thank you to you guys for taking the time to do that. The best part of the show. Moving on to the socials, we had a few over there. Let's go over to Twitter. Our writer Jordan Shortman says it's a story I've always struggled with. Not a fan of the Evil Six, though I do like that it's the Time Lords who stop the Doctor from saving Perry. I like Perry's exit, though. It's bold and striking and very original. The rest of the story is a bit strange, though. She is very bold.
That's certainly true.
Insert yes. John Griffith says, oh boy, where to begin? Dark theme, dark tunnels, darkly shot, dark Doctor, inanimate acting, stillborn plot, ridiculous brain transference. Court scenes are lackluster. One blessed relief at livening things up. And poor Perry. A program cancelling episode. 3 out of 10, sorry. He says, and then he followed up and said, why 3 out of 10 after such a review? Even terrible Doctor Who is better than no Doctor Who.
True.
There is some logic in that, I think.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes. Thank you very much, John. Lost on Gallifrey podcast. Weird one. I love the Doctor going dark, but times in this he goes too far, and no clarity is given whether he's good/bad. Considering the show was getting slammed, it's bizarre they commissioned this one. Saying that, it's quite gripping, and I love Syl. Do the laugh, Gary. 7 out of 10. Right. Rick Moran says, thank you very much, guys. And as I said before, go listen to their podcast. It's very cool. Rick Moran says, I have thoroughly enjoyed Mindwarp, way more than The Mysterious Planet. The story has been very interesting and much darker in tone, verging on sci-fi horror. This final part was the best yet. The fate of Perry in a particular, a totally shocking scene. 8-year-old me was devastated, which I'm sure was the reaction that was wanted. Overall, a 7 out of 10.
Cheers, Rick. Yeah, I must admit, when I watched this back in the day, I was convinced that Perry would be back the following week. I was like, no way are they going to do that to Perry. But yeah.
They were ruthless back then, dude.
Ruthless.
Adric coming back. No.
No chance.
He's got to go. Kill him off. Right, Dan Pin says, I've always found this a difficult watch. It's hard seeing the Sixth Doctor being so unpleasant, regardless of whether it's... that's a spoiler, dude. So unpleasant regardless of... Saying that, Colin's performance is very good. You really feel he's properly hitting his stride. Brian Blessed seems to think he's in a panto. I like Crozier, this super suave and amoral scientist. Nicola gives her best performance as Perry, as she actually has something to do. Syl is superb as ever. A bit of a mess with a few highlights. 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10, okay.
Middle of the road from Dan. Yep. Edward Giluli says, not the greatest story, with Blessed being himself and therefore terrible in this. Would Perry seriously go off with him? Good to have Syl back. He's the best thing in it. A 6 out of 10.
Indeed.
Yes. Caitlin Dalek 100 said, it's a good story with Syl returning. It somewhat felt like a sequel to Varos in a way. Unfortunately, the Doctor didn't seem to be very likeable in this lot. And it's a lot for me, and as I found him rather difficult to watch at times. Perry has some wonderful dynamic with Yukanos, 6 out of 10. And lastly for Twitter, Clive and Gemma, who's Clive-Lewis is the name of the Twitter account, which is very cool. Was lucky enough to see this at the BFI earlier this year. It was my 7-year-old daughter Scarlett's first introduction to the Trial of a Time Lord season.
Oh, yes.
She found it both captivating and frightening. As a result, old Sixie and Perry are now her favourite TARDIS combo. That's awesome, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I remember meeting up remember saying hello at the BFI, actually, yes.
That's very cool. Your first proper introduction and your fave combo is Sixie and Perry. That's very cool. Thank you very much, guys, over on Twitter. And then we had a few over on Facebook. Millie Mackenzie, I've got too much to say about this for Facebook, so I've sent you an email. Oh yes, Millie, I've got your email. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save Millie's review until the end of the 4 parts, because her review is like a big review of the Trial of a Time Lord as a whole. So I'm going to save it for that. But thank you very much, Millie. I've got that saved away. I'll do that in a couple of weeks. Charlie Turner, short and sweet this week. Okay, but I don't like the inclusion of Syl. He was fine in Vengeance, but not so much here. A 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Richard Hardman says this was the best story out of this season, in my opinion. The planet look alien. The Lucosa is great and Blessed is awesome. But the best bit was poor Perry. What a shock. That poor girl went through the ringer with Sixie. It's a shame her ending was altered. I give it 8 out of 10 purely for originality, although I wouldn't want a whole season like this. Joseph Howarth. It's okay. I'll say this about Mindwarp. It's a bit more interesting than the story The Mysterious Planet, but that's not really saying much because it's a story within the Trial of a Time Lord saga. Brian Blessed does seem to be having a good old time playing Yukanos. Syl's back, which is nice, I guess, but ultimately the scene of Perry dying is kind of ruined. Again, it's a better story, but it's not something I'd go back to. And it's a story that still has plenty of problems. A 6 out of 10.
Yes, it's not one I'd reach for very often, I'll be honest.
Yeah, so when I go, that's because there's spoilers in these. Now, anyone that wants to hunt out the spoilers, that's completely down to you. Just head over to our Twitter and Facebook pages. You'll see them on there. But just in case anybody wants to steer clear on the podcast, I'm going to... Chris Goldby says, Mindwarp is 4 episodes too long. It starts out creepy and slowly heads towards being a bad musical without the music. Oh dear, Chris, not a fan there. No. Andrew Boland conversely says, I adore Mindwarp. It's so weird and creepy it feels an episode too long, and Tuva and his crew are poorly acted and costumed. But aside from that, I really love this tale. Yes, it's OTT, but that's Doctor Who for you. Easily the best in the trial season.
Okay.
And lastly, Rob Doyle says, I watched the whole series when the new Blu-ray set came out. The story was a slog, and it's too chopped up and it seems to be missing loads of scenes. It would be interesting to see what the original story would have been like without the trial breaking the story flow.
Yeah.
Also, what a crap way to write Perry out of the show. 5 out of 10. Better to come, thank goodness. So that's all of our reviews from our awesome listeners and potentially people who don't listen. If you come across us on Facebook or something like that and you're like, oh yeah, what's all this? And you're interested and you've plopped a review, that's awesome too. So thank you very much to everybody that's contributed to reviews this week. Awesome as always. Next week, Bud, what's next for Trial of a Time Lord?
Yeah, next week. So Terror of the Vervoids is the next story. I don't know what to think going into this one. I remember very, very little from this. And I don't know. I haven't got a very good vibe from it, from what people have said. I just don't know. But then I remember the Vervoids looking, I was going to say looking good, but I know they look like other things as well. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to watching it, but I've got a feeling I'm going to get to the end of it and be a bit disappointed, but we'll see. This could go either way.
Yes. So the good news is that we're halfway through the Trial of a Time Lord review month. So even if you're not enjoying the stories too much, at least we're halfway through, which is a good achievement, a good milestone thus far.
That's it.
So yeah, next week, Terror of the Vervoids. Get your DVDs or your BritBox fired up or your Blu-rays, whatever, because we will ask for your reviews as always. And we love hearing what you guys think. So, cool. I think we'll do there, Bud, for 267.
Alrighty.
Merch corner.
Hold up.
Hey, Tat's back.
Tat's back. Get out. You're not needed at this bit. That's going to do there, Bud, for 267.
Alrighty.
Trial of a bloody Time Lord, eh?
I can just tell you're not digging it so far.
Do you know what, mate? I'm actually okay with. I know I've had a bit of a moan and stuff, but I'm actually enjoying. I don't watch a lot of 60 that often, you know, so it's not too bad a thing just to be kicking back and watching some Colin now and then.
I'm enjoying Colin in it.
Yeah, he's actually okay. Actually, not too bad at all. So that was 267 and our review of Mindwarp. Next week, as Adam said, we're on to Terror of the Vervoids. So get your DVDs and your Blu-rays watched, or your BritBox, whatever you watch it on, because we're going to need your reviews. We're going to need to sustain and get through to the end of May. So we're going to ask for your stuff. So look out on the socials for that. And some cool merch coming through as well. So looking forward to these two new novels. I'm not sure if between October and December that's enough time to read the first one, because the books normally just go on the shelf for a year and then we pull them off when I don't know. But anyways, in the meantime, until next week, head over to the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our shows on there. Plus you can link off to the various podcast apps and networks. We'd love to have you as a subscriber so that you don't miss a show when it lands in your app every single Friday. Or whatever app you listen to, just do a search for the Big Blue Box Podcast. You'll find us on there. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Again, links are on the website, or just do a search. We've got a Discord server as well. Link for that is on the website. Come and hang out and chat lots of Doctor Who. I've been chatting plenty this morning over on Discord about people's collections and these upcoming Time Lord Victoria stuff. So come and join in the chatter over there. Also, check out my co-host's YouTube channel, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes.
The old Geek's Handbag.
I need to get some editing equipment so I can start making videos again.
Yeah, I tweeted you earlier about that, mate.
I did, yeah.
Go and check it out.
I had no idea that good old Movie Maker was no longer a thing.
I know. They struck it out, mate. Yep. Yeah, so go and grab a cup of tea. Go and check out Adam's channel. Adam's also on the socials as well under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Indeed. Go and search for him. Just connect, everybody connect and chat Doctor Who. It's all good. Okay, until next week. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,